yoga is just, it's a wonderful tool. And so there are so many different pieces and facets to it that in 10 years, I hope that I'm doing exactly what I'm doing now. And if my growth continues this way, whoa, man, I'll be way more aware because, now I'm aware, but the awareness is more like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing it again. And why am I still doing this? Okay.
That's Briohny Smyth, and this, my friends, is the Yoga Life Podcast. Hello and welcome back. Today I have with me Briohny Smyth, who is one half of Bryce Yoga. The other half is Dice. He was on the podcast episode 10 last week, so if you missed that you can check it out. Bri, there's so much to say about Bri. She is an entrepreneurial powerhouse. She has taught us teacher trainees so much about how to diversify, how to think outside the box and make the most of our career as teachers. This podcast is quite brief because, once again, as with Dice, it was done in my car. But if I had a bit more time, I would have liked to share with you and speak with Bri about her background, the fact that she was a pop star from the age of 11 to 21. She seemed to party a lot in those days, and then became a single mother in her 20s and bounced back from that pop career and climbed all the way to the height she is now in the yoga industry. And not only is Bri a brilliant business person, but she's really a motherly figure. I mean, she really looked after us on the training course. You couldn't ask for more from a trainer and a person, so I'm honoured to have a chance to speak with her and her to take the time out to share her story. I hope you learn loads from this and get some inspo from the brilliant Bri. Enjoy. Oh, quick disclaimer. The shuffling noises you'll hear for the first minute are me trying to get comfortable in my tiny little car. So yeah, please bear with this podcast for the first minute or so, and the background noise ends after that. Okay, enjoy. Hi, Bri.
Hi, Kevin.
We're in our podcast studio, aren't we?
We're in the most amazing podcast studio ever.
Yeah, we're in my car because I'm in the middle of my 300-hour teacher training and we were stuck for space, so we've improvised, and we are sitting here in my BMW convertible, now my little banged up Volkswagen. But it makes a good little studio, doesn't it?
It makes a great studio, good sound, not a lot of distractions, and it's a good shape.
Yeah. So thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Because I've been talking about this for a while, this podcast business. And what do you think of the medium?
I think it's great. I love podcasts because I digest them in my car, and I'm in my car a lot, also when I travel. And you're right, it gives people, like you especially, an outlet, an opportunity to express yourselves, but also to learn because you're having conversations with people and to meet people and to network. So I think it's wonderful. Yeah,
actually, good point. I think networking has been one of the biggest advantages for me because it's some of the questions I ask, it's very rare that you actually get to sit with someone for half an hour without being distracted.
True.
And ask them quite intimate questions. And if you were to ask that person the same questions in their everyday life, they'd probably think it was quite intrusive. But with a podcast, you can get away with stuff in the podcast. Not that I'm going to ask you any intrusive questions. But actually, so I'll start from the beginning.
Okay.
I have never asked you that. Where are you from?
I always answer that question with, it depends on what you're asking, right?
Where were you
I was
born?
born.
Yeah.
I was born in Australia, in Sydney.
I thought so. Okay.
Yes. I still have an Aussie passport.
Okay.
I love Australia. My dad's an Aussie. And when I was 3, we moved to Los Angeles, which is where my parents met. My mom immigrated from Thailand, my dad from Australia back in the 70s, 60s or so. And they met there. And so we moved back when I was 3. And I spent a lot of time there until I was 11, mostly in Los Angeles. And when I was 11, there was a big old earthquake in LA, the 94 earthquake. was a bunch of things that happened back in the day there. The riots, the earthquakes, the fires, all in one. And so for my parents, it was time to move. So we moved to Thailand when I was 11 and hated them for it because I was in 5th grade. And
difficult age.
Yeah, difficult age. Really only knew one way, to be. I was a Southern California girl, spoke one language, identified as, being with my friends. And so moving to what was then a third world country was very tough for me in my mind. And I remember the first thing I saw was a cow in a 7-Eleven, and I just thought, what are we doing? But now I'm so thankful because so much happened in my life because of that move. So many positive things.
Yeah. And then so obviously you travel a lot, but where's your home?
Home is Los Angeles.
Still, okay.
Yeah. My kids go to school there. We were there 50-50. And, as the kids, especially our son, gets older and older, then we have to be more stable. So we're now just traveling I am just traveling about 40% of the year.
So do you still teach? I mean, because obviously young Ella moves, you do your teacher trainings. Do you still teach public classes?
I don't teach public classes in LA anymore anywhere. Yeah,
right.
I did for a very long time, and I enjoyed it. But I always felt, or at least what I feel now, is that with the amount that I travel, it's kind of unfair to hold a public class, both for the studio and for the students, because you want to be reliable. You want to show up for them each and every time. So I focused my attention on traveling and then having a stable community online.
Okay. And how did because we talked about this in the training yesterday about building an online platform or getting onto an online platform. How did the Aloe Moves originally Cody app thing come about for you?
Like most things, there's a bit of timing involved with a lot of hustling and networking. It's been, one of the traits that I've realized in my life that has been very handy. I've always been a mediator for my parents. My parents used to fight all the time. Neither one of them is going to listen to this, so I can be very candid. Or maybe they will, and they'll hear, once again, how my life was growing up. But they fought a lot. They're both very hot-headed people and stubborn. So being their only child, even though I have a sister, a half-sister, being their only child, it was me who was mediating. And that has been a common pattern in my life between my mom and my partners, or my partners and my daughter, or anybody, really. I'm always taking on the responsibility of mediating or networking, facilitating relationships. And I used to see it as something that was draining, because it comes from my parents. But now I've tried my best to see it as a tool in my life and to see where I can apply it. Not just for my own well-being, but also for others. Find myself mediating the relationship between a person and themselves quite a lot.
Yeah.
That's, essentially what we're doing as yoga teachers. So that networking skill is what propelled me into partnering with Cody app. They actually contacted me to get to Dice.
Oh, wow.
Because back in the day when we were still married, which were separated, but we're essentially not together, I was handling a lot of our business. And so I got an email from Paul Javit, who started Cody app, and he said, hey, I want to connect with Dice and, see if he can come and teach online. And, Dice is with Yoga Glow, so he couldn't do that. And I just said, well, what about me? And that began that relationship.
See an opportunity? That's okay.
Yeah, see an opportunity. And you know what? A lot of times you find that amongst yoga teachers is like, you want something, or people in general, you want something, but you're not putting it out there. And somehow you expect it to come to you. But if you're not putting it out there, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's so powerful just asking that one question in that email. If you could have left it and said, you could have just responded and not, but you took the opportunity to ask that question, which yes. I think I find so many people struggle with that. Yoga teachers that are newly qualified, especially, they don't see the value in networking, in for want of a better word, selling, like, or
Yes.
promoting, whatever word you want to use. But when well, firstly, what's your view on that, and have you come across that?
Oh, all the time. And my view on that is basically it comes from insecurity. It comes from a fear of being judged by someone else. Oh, if I say this, or if I sell this, or if I market myself, that person's going to think, I'm just marketing myself or trying to go after something. We're scared of what other people are going to think. And maybe because we have a negative connotation to marketing or someone selling something, then we automatically don't want to do it. But I'm going to say this, and anybody who's listening that has taken any class of mine that has to do with business will hear this and be like, I know, Bri. It's like, as a yoga teacher, you are an entrepreneur. You're a business owner of your own business. People aren't going to serve you jobs necessarily or all the time on a platter. So you have to go out there and do it. And, that the confidence will come from, one, studying and getting experience. You have to garner experience. And then you'll have confidence in yourself. And then maybe mentioning that you have these strengths rather than calling it marketing will become easier.
Yeah, but also there's the promoting to the people that are coming to your class, and then there's the promoting to build, to network. And I think that's that. I think Instagram. I mean, anyone can start an Instagram account. You can do it in 2 seconds and post pictures, and we're all very familiar with Instagram. But what's the ebook all about, and where are the strengths there compared to other mediums, would you say?
Well, the great thing about an ebook, and I'll also talk about what you were talking about on Instagram and such, but the great thing about an ebook is that it's digital. And there are a lot of people on digital platforms, as opposed to people who are walking into bookstores or people who are looking for hard copy of a book, which I still buy books that I really love, and they sit on my table and they're art, and I look through them. I enjoy that process. But digital, it gets places easier. And if you think about the 1 billion people that are now on Instagram, it'll help remind you, those of you out there who have a negative connotation towards an online platform or anything digital, that yes, there are negative aspects to everything, but really how I've experienced it, and of course I've had negative experiences. I've been hacked, and I've had people leave really sharp comments, and or even have had men text or DM me really inappropriate things. Like, of course there are bad things about it, but one of the greatest things that I derive from online platforms is connection. And essentially I think that is, like you said, the bedrock or the foundation of us as teachers, is that we, start out teaching public classes, and it's all about connection. Even though people are on their mats, solo, flowing, your voice is guiding them through a practice that is essentially a tool for them to connect with themselves. So then, in order for them to keep coming back, you have to have made a connection with them somehow. And you build a community. Now, even if you're sitting here listening and you're saying, well, I have no interest in building a global community, the best way to continue connecting with your students from your public classes is to connect with them in a Facebook group or on Instagram. Then you get to talk to them off the mat outside of the yoga studio, and essentially that's what networking is. And then you can grow your business. You can start inviting them to workshops, to retreats, maybe even to teacher trainings, and or one day branching off and doing an ebook. Right?
Switching hands.
We're switching hands. We're holding our microphones in a car.
I know, my hand was getting sleepy too.
Yes. But yeah, I think, any sort of negative response we have to things, I think it's important to pause and think about why it's affecting you. And a lot of times it can come back to just your own things, like insecurity or fear of judgment.
Yeah.
I deal with it too.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, it builds that connection. I mean, I know, like even little things like I'm going to remember someone's name way more if I'm connected to Instagram and they come to class and I'm like, oh, and I know they are, you know, a mother or a father and then what they did on the weekend, and it kind of it speeds up. It's a catalyst to that connection, to the small talk, and it gets you through the small talk a lot quicker. So
or you just remember their Instagram name, like Kevin Boyle Yoga.
I've done that in like a hurry, like quickly scrolling to find out what their real name is. That's yeah. So when's your ebook going to be released?
It's probably by just a couple months. Yeah, and it's mostly about asana. It's the heart of my passion when it comes to yoga, like it always has been. Just diving deep into the asana and the foundational asanas as well. So it's a page by page how to do around 200 asanas correctly. It's visually engaging as well as audio. So it'll be cool. Yeah, we're releasing it in 3 different languages first, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So there's going to be someone translating your voice?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, because I remember looking online on Instagram Live and seeing you doing the voiceover, and I thought, wow, there's so many ways you can diversify, isn't there? If you just think outside the box, and that's so encouraging. You don't have to just do one thing. Of all the things that you do, what would you say you enjoy the most?
Ooh. Oh gosh, I would say I enjoy teaching to groups. And that could mean teaching to people on Instagram. It could mean teaching to people in person, in trainings, workshops, festivals. I love festivals. But that, I grew up performing on stage. I was a singer. And there were so many different facets to that world as well. But where I really felt myself alive was on stage, and seeing people, how they would react to the music that I created with my team. And this is kind of similar, but I always back then yearned for a deeper connection with people. And so with yoga, it is a much deeper connection. And I really enjoy, talking about the different experiences I've had through yoga, whether it be physical or spiritual, and seeing it possibly inspire or impact other people. And then also through that connection, learning even more about myself.
Yeah, but what amazed me though is, like, say you were saying how you did every Wanderlust festival this year, and you're doing all these teacher trainings, you're traveling everywhere. Obviously, your mother, is the energy that you and Dice have. You just go all day. I mean, what do you see? Like, part of the reason why I like the idea of a podcast is I think physically I don't know when I'm going to be able to, how long I can do like arm balances for. Will I be doing them when I'm 60? So that therefore I'm interested in exploring a way to connect that isn't involving doing asana, I suppose. So this is quite a big question. It's kind of a Oprah Winfrey question. But where do you see yourself, or what would you see yourself doing, say, in 10 years?
I like that question.
Thank you.
That's a difficult one. Of course, we all have goals and aspirations in life. I do, asana has always been my first love. I've been practicing for 20 years. And there are different things I feel in my body now, of course. Sometimes like I don't want to do asana. Sometimes my body feels older. But I think I will always love teaching asana because it is the gateway for people to find yoga. And I may not always have to practice. I don't anymore practice 90 minutes a day. I don't feel the need to, but I can understand that. So I will always enjoy teaching asana just because I get to see that excitement that people have when they do something they didn't think they could, or, when their asana practice is exactly what they needed. But I'm also at a place where I see how my asana practice has helped to bring me on this journey towards loving pranayama or meditation, and I see that when I see, someone who's been practicing for 6 months or a year. And I love that because I'm excited and I get to be a part of their journey. And, here they are focused on handstand, and I can bring myself back to when I was learning it. And I get to, sponge up that excitement with them and possibly even be a part of their journey when they become interested in pranayama and meditation. And when they have a realization, like some of the realizations I've had over the years about how asana fits into my life. And yoga is just, it's a wonderful tool. And so there are so many different pieces and facets to it that in 10 years, I hope that I'm doing exactly what I'm doing now. And if my growth continues this way, whoa, man, I'll be way more aware. Now I'm aware, but the awareness is more like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing it again. And why am I still doing this? Okay.
And do you see yourself still traveling around?
Oh, that question. I have slowed down a little bit in the last 2 years, mainly because my focus has narrowed. I understand myself a little more. I love teaching trainings, and the festival piece is great for me because I get to bring in my passion for music and performance into festivals. And so I don't know. I've slowed down a little bit. I'm sure I'll want to slow down even more, but that won't stop me from teaching the trainings and the festivals. I think I'll always be doing that. Which is what I'm doing right now. I'm happy with this schedule.
Yeah. Wow, fair play.
But it's a lot. I am in a place right now where I know I need to schedule in more me time. I think it's going to mean that I'll take possibly a trip up to Santa Barbara or Esalen Institute somewhere. I live in California. That's like the home of wellness experiences, and I just need to do it. I'm incredibly anxious about being alone. My mother has always been very codependent, so I was very codependent in most of my relationships, and this is the first time in my life that I feel awake and aware of it, and even excited to be more independent. It's just scary, unknown. The unknown's scary.
Yeah. Well, Bri, thank you so much, because I know this isn't the ideal situation, like we're holding our mics here in the car.
Totally fine. I love it.
I'll finish by saying that, because we're on our lunch break, like meeting you and Dice, but particularly you said at the start of the training that you were like the mummy of the group, and you really have been. I mean, your energy, your work ethic is massively impressive to me, and so yeah, I thank you for everything, and I'm excited about the next few days.
Yay, likewise. Thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I hope you enjoyed that express episode with Bri, and learned loads as always. Next week I'm going to do a solo effort, so just me. I did my first half of reviewing my TC training with Bryce, and this will be my part 2, so the finale, essentially what I learned in the last 10 days of intensive training. I'll go through everything, all my thoughts every day, what I experienced. I hope it helps you, and if it does, I'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch. You can find me at kevinboyleyoga on Instagram, and as always, if you enjoyed the podcast, a review would be really appreciated on iTunes or Stitcher. Have a great week. Speak to you soon. Bye.